All right, so this is going to be the first assignment to complete. And let me zoom in a little bit on this PDF. It's available for all of you to download as needed. So what you're going to be drawing here is the two sofas. There's a rug, and you can make any design that you want, and then there's an end table there. That's the name of the file, and we will go ahead and get started. So I'm going to minimize this, and now I'm in AutoCAD. First thing to do is start a new drawing file. So you come up here to the AutoCAD title. Right below it, you go to New, but go ahead and click on the drop down. And if you don't see AutoCAD DWT as a template, that's all right. Just click on Browse Templates. And when you click on Browse Template, you just click on ACAD. That's the one you want to use. So go ahead and click on Open. Okay. From here, you'll notice that I've already got my command line at the bottom. That's all set up. And the grid is back on, but I want to turn that grid off. Again, personal preference. You don't have to do this. I'll just give that a click to turn off the grid. And then the next thing to do is formatting the units. Right now, it's set to decimal, and we need to change that. So step 1, units, and enter. And I'm giving my computer a second there to do what it has to. Okay. So then from here, the length type, I'm going to set that to architectural. The precision, I'm going to set that to the nearest 32nd of an inch. For the angle, it will be decimal degrees. For the precision, 0.00. And that's all you need to change here. I'm just going to pause for a second so you can take a look at it. And then I'll go ahead and click OK. So my units are now set to architectural, which means I can type in feet and inches. Next thing to do is save the drawing as. Now, I can go up here to the icon, application button, give that a click, and then click on save. And then from here, I'm going to look for my drive. And it doesn't have it listed. And I'm glad that it doesn't because I forgot to log in. So let me close that for a moment. Let me minimize AutoCAD. Let me go over here and launch Google Drive. I believe Google Drive is now running. I'm just going to come down here for a second and go to the application button here and go to my, let's see, is it listed? There it is. There's Google Drive, so I guess I'm good. Okay, and that was within my virtual machine. So let me go back to AutoCAD. Where is AutoCAD? Hang on, that may not have been my virtual machine. Maybe it is. I don't know. Let me Alt-Tab, and there's AutoCAD. Great. And now let's see if I can save. And there's Google Drive. Okay, great. So now I'm going to save it to my drive, and I'll look for that folder. There it is. Look for the section. And then in here, the file name. You are going to be using first initial last name to prefix all of your files. So I'm going to use my first initial last name, and then you're going to use a number. And in our case, this is the first drawing, so it's going to be 01, and then the title of that drawing file, which was sofa and rug. And then save that. And this is all on Brightspace 2. All right, I'm just pausing for a second while it saves. Maybe I give it a click here on the screen. Okay, that was fine. Tap the escape key. I'll close this. All right, and I can see on the title that it is being saved over to Google Drive, so I can begin. All right, I'm going to now zoom out a little bit, just rolling the wheel mouse back. And you can see what happens. This icon over here is moving. And this, by the way, is called the UCS icon. That's our user coordinate system. And that location is always going to be the 0, 0 start point, what we call the origin in AutoCAD. And when I bring the drawing back, I want you to see that I've identified where that 0, 0 is going to be. So it's right here. And I'm going to zoom in on that drawing specifically, or that portion of the drawing. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to draw a line straight across, going over to my right, and it's going to be 3 feet in length. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to take this step by step. So I will start by drawing a line. I go to the Home tab, Draw Panel, Line. I give it one click. And you'll see that my input is now set to feet and inches. Right now it's inches only. Um, but it's showing me how close it is to that XY location. So I can get real close, but I will never be able to set it exactly at 0, 0. So I need to type this value in. So I need to start the line at X equal to 0. So I type 0, comma, and Y equal to 0. And then I enter. And that gives me a line straight, exactly at the point of origin. So then from here, I'm just going to take my cursor across, and I don't have to go the exact 3-foot length. I just have to move it in the right direction. And I have something called polar tracking turned on. If you don't see this, make sure that down here, this icon, polar tracking, is blue. Click on it and turn it on. It should be on by default. So now I'm just going to put my cursor here. It's going to give me a straight line. I will now type in 3 feet. You have to use the apostrophe. So 3 feet and enter. It draws the line. That's all I want to draw. So I'm going to enter, and that terminates the command. So that line is 3 feet. How do I know? I can come over here to my utilities, and there's this measure option. It's just listed as part of the drop down for all the other tools there for measuring. I'm just going to click on quick, and if I hover, you can see that it tells me it's 3 feet in length. So I'm good. I'll tap the escape key and continue. The next line I want to draw is starting at 0, 0, taking it straight up, and that's going to be 6 feet 2 inches. So I go back to my AutoCAD drawing. I go back to the Home tab, Draw Panel, click on Line. And then I can either type 0, 0, or because I have my object snaps running, it will find that endpoint. See, if I just hover there long enough, it will tell me that's an endpoint. And I know the endpoint started at 0, 0, so all I have to do is click one time. One click, and then I'll take it straight up. And as long as I have that guide showing up there, I can go ahead now and type in 6 feet 2 inches. And I don't need to put inches. It's going to default to inches. So 6 feet 2, enter. And that line is off screen, and that's okay. I enter again. And I now have 2 lines. And now I'm going to type Z enter, E enter for extents. So zoom extents, and I have 2 lines. And if I zoom out just a little bit like this, and I go back and I use my quick measure tool, I can see that one line is 3 foot long, the other one is 6 foot 2. I'm in good shape here. I can continue to draw. So I'll tap the escape key. And what I want to do now is just continue drawing this rectangle right here. Now I can easily just draw a line starting at this point and take it straight up, but I want to show you other ways of doing this. And I'm going to introduce the copy command formally. So I want to copy this line, the vertical one. So I'm going to come over here to copy. It says select the objects. I select this one. I enter. And then it says specify a base point. I'll pick the endpoint here. And then I will copy it to this endpoint and give that a click. And you can see that it wants me to continue copying, but I'm done. So I tap the escape key. Now, I'll make a copy of this one. So I will right click this time because it is one of my recent inputs. So I want to repeat copy. And I select the line. And then I enter. And I pick this endpoint. and I copy it up to this endpoint. And then I tap the escape key. I'll go over to my quick measure tool, and I can see that I have a rectangle there, 6'2" tall, 3 wide, and you can see at every corner it's indicating that it is 90 degrees. So everything is perfectly straight, and that's good. Make sure yours are too. I'll tap the escape key now, and I'll go back to my example. Now what I'd like to do is draw the backrest. And the backrest, it shows me that the dimension is 8 inches. So I'm going to put that in. Only this time I'm going to use the offset command. This is new. I'm just introducing as many different commands as I can. So I'll go back to the Home tab, Modify Panel, and it's this icon right here, and it's Offset. So I give that one click. And then it says specify the offset distance. So the offset distance is going to be 8 inches. I type 8 and I enter. Select object to offset. I select this line. One click. And then as I move my cursor, it says specify point on side to offset. Do I want it to offset to the right or to the left? I want it to go to the right. And it doesn't matter where on the right side of that line I click. I can be way out here. It's only going to offset at 8 inches. So I'll click, and I'm done with that. Notice how it wants to continue to offset, but I will enter to terminate the command. And if you want to go back and use the quick measure tool again, you could see, and I'll zoom in a little bit, it is 8 inches. Tap the escape key, and then I will continue. The next offset is going to be the armrest, and the armrest is 4 inches. And then I have my cushion, which is 1'10". And I'm going to show you how to use the offset command to drop in all of the lines using the different offset dimensions, 4 inches and 1'10". So back to the drawing I go, and I now will use the offset command. I'll right click, I go to recent inputs, offset, and I'm going to start with 4 inches. So offset distance is going to be 4, and enter. I select the line, and I offset it up in this direction. So I give this one click. So that's a 4-inch offset. And I can do the same thing up here. Click on that line and offset it down in this direction. Now, for the cushion, watch this. I want it to be 1'10", so I'm going to click right here, and I want to take it up. And notice how it wants to go up 4 inches. But I can go into that text box, and because it's highlighted, all I have to do now is just type in 1'10" and enter, and it will offset at 1'10". I'll do the same thing at the top. I'll click here. It wants to offset it down 4 inches, but I type in 1'10" and enter, and I have my cushions, and then I'll enter again. So that's using the offset command one time, but using different values. Next, I don't need the armrest or the cushions to extend this far, so let me zoom in a little bit like this. There we go. And what I wanted to do now is trim. So I'm going to come over here, back to Home tab, Modify Panel, Trim. I click on Trim, and then all I have to do is click on the line segments like this and trim them out. Now this could take a little bit of time. I'll enter. And I want to show you another way of doing this. So I'm going to undo, and I'll start again. So I'll click on Trim. Only this time, instead of clicking on a line, I'm just going to click right up here one time, and then it's going to generate what's called a fence line. And I'm just going to take that fence line all the way down here and click. And that's a much quicker way of trimming 4 objects. And then I'll enter. And then I'll zoom out, and you're more than welcome to go back and do a quick measure and just check your dimensions, make sure everything is at a right angle. And also making sure that your dimensions are feet and inches. So I'll tap the escape key. And then now would be a good time to save my drawing. So I'm just going to tap Control S, and you'll see on the command line how it did what's called a quick save, Q save. So I know my file is saved. So if I close out of it now, I at least have this much drawn. All right, I want to continue. What I'd like to do next is go ahead and draw this two-seater, and it's going to be based on the three-seater because the dimensions are similar. So the first thing to do, pan this over and make a copy of the three-seater over here in this area. So back to the Home tab, Modify Panel, and I click on Copy. And then it says Select Objects. I'm going to use an implied window. I'm going to start right up here, take it over, and click. And then Enter. And it says Specify a base point. I'll use this as a base point. I don't have to pick any endpoint. So I'll just click right here. And I want to copy it over far enough so that I have room to rotate it, because that's the next step. So I'd say right here is far enough. I'll give it a click, and it wants to make more copies. I will just right click and enter to terminate the command. And now what I want to do is rotate it. So what makes it easier for me is just to kind of put it in the center of the screen and focus on this sofa and kind of ignore that one off to the side. So next step, rotate. Home tab, Modify Panel, Rotate. Select the objects. I want to pick all of them, so I use a window, implied window. Only this time I'll go down from the bottom here, and as long as I'm going to the right, I'm in good shape. I click, tells me that it has selected 9 objects. I go ahead and enter. And the base points, sure, I'll pick an endpoint this time, like this. I'll give it a click. And notice how it wants to spin it and rotate it about that point. Now be real careful that you don't snap accidentally to an endpoint like this or any other kind of object snap. Move it away, and that way you're sure that it's going to give it a nice straight 90-degree angle here. And I have the guide on, so I'll go ahead and click. So that's a 90-degree rotation. And now I want to focus on just this sofa alone. Notice how I'm zooming in real close. And I want to convert this to a two-seater. And I'd like to show you a couple of ways of doing this. So here goes. Number one, all I really have to do is take this line and offset it 1 foot. I'm sorry, not 1 foot, 4 inches over to kind of replicate that armrest. So let me try that first. So tapping the escape key to get rid of that selection. And then I'm going to come over here and select offset. Offset distance is going to be 4 inches. So I type 4 and enter. I select my object, and then I make sure to click on the right side. So I give it a click right here and enter to terminate the command. Good. Now this armrest just needs to go all the way to the top there. So I'm going to use the opposite of the trim command. So if I click on the drop down, instead of trim, I want extend. So I click on extend, and I extend this line up. Notice how it's already going there, so I just give it a click. All set, and then I enter to terminate the command. And now I want to trim. So I go back and I select trim instead of extend. And I'll just use that fence option. So I'm going to give this one click here, go straight down, click, enter. And the objects that remain over here, I'm just going to window them like this and delete them. So that was one way of creating the two-seater. So let me undo and show you another way. There we go. So what I can do is take this line and actually just move it over 1'10". So I click on move, I select the line, I enter, and I know that I want to use this as my base point, and then I want to use this as my second point. And that's exactly 1'10". I didn't have to type anything in. So I click it. I'm all done. And then I go to trim using the fence option, enter, and then I'll use the erase tool this time instead of just selecting. So I click on erase and I window all of this and enter. So that's another way of doing it. One more. I'll undo all of that. And now I'm going to get a little sophisticated on you because I'm going to introduce the stretch command. And in order for this to work, I want to, or I need to delete one of the lines because I don't want them to overlap. So I'm going to take this line here. See how I just highlighted it there? And then just tap the delete key. It's another way to erase. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is take all of this information and I need to stretch it to the left a distance of 1'10". So I come over here and I click on stretch. And then it says select objects. But if you look at the command line, it says select objects to stretch by crossing window or crossing polygon. And you might say to yourself, well, which way is that? I can't remember. Here's what I like to do. I like to type in C for crossing right away. I just type in C and enter. And then I know that I'm going to get a crossing window no matter what direction I go in. So I'm going to click up here and see how I get a crossing window. Watch this. No matter what direction I go, crossing window because I typed that C. So I just want it to cross through all of the lines here and including those endpoints. I give it a click and then I enter to terminate the command. And then I want it to go over 1'10". Well, I don't need to type anything in because I know that the distance from this point to this point is exactly 1'10". So I just give it a click and I've got my two-seater. So those are three different ways to do it. And I'm just showing you these options so that you're aware of them. There's no one way of doing it, and there's definitely not a right way or a wrong way either. As long as you get it done, you're good. So the next thing here is to add these curves. And you can see where it says that you want to embellish the cushion and you want to add a 4-foot radius arc. So let's do that now. And I'm just going to pan this over and then I'll zoom in right here because I want to put in the arc right there. So I'm going to go to the arc and you notice it gave us, or the radius was provided. So from the arc option, I want to look for something that gives me a radius. And it looks like this one will give me the radius. So there's a start, end, and radius. So I'm going to pick this option. And then I need to start with, well, obviously the start point. Now this is a little, I would say tricky because arcs technically want to be constructed in a counterclockwise direction. So I believe I need to pick this point first. We'll find out in a minute if I was right. So I pick this as my start point, and then it says specify the end point. I click over here, and then it wants me to pick a radius. Now let me zoom out a little bit, and you'll see what it's doing. There we go. So I did do this the right way. So it is constructing the arc in a counterclockwise direction. And then from here, 4 feet. So I type in 4 feet and enter. And it gives me a nice soft curve there. And then what I'm going to do is just copy that arc over to the other side. So I'll come over here to copy. I'll select the arc. I will enter. I'll pick this endpoint and I'll take it over to that endpoint. And then I'll tap the escape key. And then I just need to trim this line out. So I come over here to trim, trim here, trim there, and enter. And that's my two-seater. Now I'd like to move it into place. You can see that it's up here and it's also angled a little bit. So let me do that. So I'm going to come over to move and I'm going to window all of the objects and enter. And I'll basically move it from this endpoint right over here. And it's an arbitrary location like that. And then the last thing I'll do is I'll just turn it a little bit. I'll rotate it. So I'll come over to my rotate command. I'll select my objects, but because I previously selected them, all I have to do right now is type P for previous. Watch this. P, enter. And that selects the previous selection set. I'm good. I enter. And then I'll pick this endpoint here and I'll just rotate it ever so slightly in that direction. It doesn't matter if you want to rotate it down or rotate it up. Either is fine. And this just gives it a little bit more of a lived-in look. So that's all set. And then the last thing I'll do here is Control S. That way it saves the file and I can continue. All right, looking at my example, I have a table and it's showing me that it's a 2-foot diameter, which means it's a 1-foot radius. So I can either put in a circle using the diameter option or radius, doesn't matter. So I'll come over here to my circle and it's either center radius or center diameter, either one. I'll go with the diameter since that's what I had put in, or that's what's shown on the drawing. Center diameter, the center is somewhere here, and then the diameter, can't remember, sorry, forgot, 2 foot. Okay, diameter then, 2 feet. I type in 2 feet, enter, and there's the table. And then you can move it if you want. A little bit closer, maybe. And just be careful. You see how it wants to snap to that center? Just be mindful of that. Get away from that edge of the circle, and you'll be okay. So maybe here, and then we're all set. And then I'll zoom extent. So Z, enter, E, enter. The next thing I want to do is put in the rug. Now, you can do any design that you want. But I put this in because I want to show you how to use the array command. And I did a rectangular array, a rug that's rectangular, so I can use the rectangular array. And then I also did a rug that's round, and I can put those tassels in, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'll keep mine very straightforward. You can embellish, you can do whatever you'd like. So I will start with this rug. And you notice how there are no dimensions. And make it any size that you want. So let me go back to my drawing and I'm going to start, I'll put it right here and I'll go ahead and start by drawing the lines. So I'll click on line and I'll pick a point here. I'll take it straight down and it looks like maybe 4 feet would work. So I'll type in 4 feet. I'll go over in this direction and maybe in this direction, I'll make it 2 feet. No, actually I'll make it 3 feet. So 3 feet, there we go. Go straight up 4 feet to match the other side. And then I'll just come over here, give it a click, and then tap the escape key. So that's what I'm drawing as a rug. Now the tassels. I'm going to focus right over here because I want to put the tassels in on this side. I'll draw one line first to represent that first tassel. So I'll right click, repeat line. I'll click right here, and I want to take that straight up. The length on that, let's say I make it 4 inches. So I'll type in 4 and enter. And then I'll enter again to terminate the command. All right. Next, I'm going to use the array command. So Home tab, Modify panel, and this is the array. And if I click on the drop down, you'll see there's a rectangular, path, and polar. So we'll start with rectangular here. I'll click on rectangular array. And then it says select the object. So I pick this one. I enter. And you'll notice that it shows me a lot of options. And then my window here has changed. So I don't want, let's see, I don't want three rows. I just want one row. So I come over here where it says three rows. I click and drag, I backspace, and I type one row and I enter. And now it's just giving me that one row here. Now the columns. I have four columns, and it says that between each column it's 1 inch with for a total of 3 inches overall. So I want more space between my lines there. So I'm going to come in here, backspace, and I'll say, why don't we set this to 4 inches and enter. So that's 4 inches. Now I want to extend my array. So I'm going to click right here on that arrow and just take it across and click right here, because if I go any further, it's going to give me more. And I want to stop right there. I give it a click. And then from here, I can revise, do whatever I want. Let's say instead of being 4 inches apart, maybe I want them to be 3 inches apart. So I type in 3 and enter. And notice how now it's tighter, which means I have to add more like that. And then when I think I'm all done, I make sure that this is set to associative, because I want them to all act as one set of objects. And then I'll go ahead and close the array. Done. And now when I hover over them, you'll see it selects all of them because they are associative. So that's good. So I want to do the same thing on the other side. But why would I do that again if I can copy this whole array? So I'm going to click on copy. I select the array. I enter. I'll copy it from this endpoint down to this endpoint. Click, and then tap the escape key. And that's my example of the rug. And like I said, you can embellish all you want. So that's one. The next one, if I wanted to put this in, I could draw a round rug, and then I could put the tassels on that. So here I go. I'll just draw it over here on the side. I'll draw a circle, and I'll pick circle radius, or rather center radius. I'll click right here. And how big do I want to make it? Let's say, sure, 2 feet. So I'll type in 2 feet, enter. And then I'll zoom in right here. And then I want to start with one line. So I come over here to draw a line. And I want it to go right here at that point. And this is what AutoCAD will refer to as a quadrant point. Now, you'll see that it wants to snap to the center. It also would like to snap to an endpoint, an intersection. I don't have that quadrant. So you need to hold down the Shift key and right click. When you use Shift right click, you get this pop-up menu. And from here, I can control that snap point, that object snap. And I look for the one that says quadrant. So I pick quadrant like this. And then notice how it's not finding the endpoints and it's not finding the center. It's only going to find those quadrant points. And I want this one right here. I give it one click and I take it straight up. And the distance here, I'll make it 4 inches and enter. And then enter to terminate the command. So I started with the one line. Now I can use polar array. So I come back over here to my array dropdown and I pick polar. Select the object, this one, enter. And then it says specify the center point of the array. Well, if I go near my circle, you notice how it's finding that center point. And the reason it's finding that center point is because it was already there as a running object snap. And you could see that listed right down here. You see where it says object snaps? I click on that drop down and you see how center is already active. So that's why it's finding it, just so you know. All right, so I'm going to click right here, one click, and notice how it defaults and it shows me 6 items. I want more items. So I'm going to change that from 6 to, let's say, 24. Enter. It's dropped in more. Great. I can change that, whatever I'd like to do. I'm going to keep it associative. Rotating items is turned on, so is direction, and that's fine. So that's what I want to have, and then I can go ahead and close the array. And then I will zoom extents. Z enter, E enter. And that is the drawing. That contains the 2 sofas and the table and your rug, whichever one you would like to draw. It's fun to practice. I would suggest trying both and keeping one of them. And then the last thing I will do is save my file. So Control S, and I'm all set. And when I'm done, I can go ahead and just close the file right here, give it a click on the X, and you're all set.